Are you capable of enough selflessness to let this hurt go? To forgive this person? Are you loving enough to embrace the one who hurt you because you understand that they just acted out of ignorance and fear? Do you want to be the type of person who judges others for their selfishness and fear? Or do you want to be a type of person who deeply understands the challenges of life and the universal dynamics that shape all human behavior? And therefore you understand that humans will act out of selfishness and fear and a need for love and out of ignorance. And yeah, sometimes they'll cause some collateral damage, which might be you. But is that going to cause you to debase yourself now and to also become selfish as a result? Or are you going to rise above that? Which do you choose? Are you strong enough to love even when others are too weak to love you? Or are you so weak that you're going to wait for others to love you before you extend your love to them? Are you strong enough to be able to love without requiring your love to be returned back to you immediately? Do you dare to love a person who hurt you? Recognize that if you don't forgive this person and this situation right now, you are being less than your highest self. You are being less than you are fully capable of, because you are capable of love. And that if you reject this forgiveness, you're doing so out of fear. The fear of what would happen if you loved somebody who hurt you or somebody who was ignorant. Which is, of course, the very same cycle that led to you being hurt in the first place by this person. So again, right now you have the option, the choice, to consciously break this cycle of ignorance. So, do you choose to forgive? Do you choose fear or do you choose love? Make your choice. Whatever choice you make is fine. I don't judge you for what choice you make. If you still decide not to forgive, then that's fine. That's just where you're at. Now, there's an additional point. Before you can fully forgive the other person, you must first forgive yourself. What do you forgive yourself for? Forgive yourself for all the times that you have been ignorant, selfish, fearful, and unconscious and needy for love in your life. Forgive yourself for all the times that you have inadvertently hurt others. Now, why would you forgive yourself for this? Because that's life. Because life has put you in this existential bind where you have to survive and where you start life from ignorance, from total ignorance, and you have to figure out life. But life is complex. Survival is complex and counterintuitive. And it takes trial and error to learn how to navigate life and how to love and how to be fearless. It takes work and trial and error to correct your original ignorance with which you started life. So are you going to judge yourself for having been born in ignorance? Does that make any sense? Of course not. This is just how life has to be. You have to start from zero, from a blank slate. And then you have to learn. And you learn through trial and error. And you make mistakes and you hurt others. And this is just a part of life. And of course, others are doing the same thing. And this generates the full gamut of what we experience in life, the highs and the lows. So are you willing to forgive yourself for being ignorant and selfish and fearful and needy for love? Why would you not? This is the human condition. And if you're able to forgive yourself, then notice that you simultaneously forgive the other person as well. There's no difference between forgiving self and forgiving other, because the very dynamics that are running you are the same fundamental universal dynamics that are running all others. So what you're really forgiving is not a specific situation where somebody cheated on you or stole some money from you or whatever. You're forgiving the general universal principles of ignorance, selfishness, fear, unconsciousness, and craving for love. And these are much easier things to forgive when you frame it in this universal way. Because these are like forces of nature. It's sort of like forgiving gravity. What is there to forgive? Gravity is just a force of nature. It's not personal. See, you and everybody else is in this existential bind in life. Everybody is doing their best to try to cope with reality in whatever ways they're capable of, in whatever ways they know how. And a lot of people just don't know how to cope in healthy ways. Don't overlook that. To you, you might know how to cope with a situation in a healthy way, but don't assume that others do. Don't assume that your parents or people from a prior generation to you have that kind of knowledge and wisdom. Remember, your parents, they grew up in a time where there was no internet. You couldn't just Google how to cope with depression or with an abusive father or with alcoholism or something like that. It was a different time. They had to cope with these things without the information that you have today. They couldn't go on YouTube and just search for a video for how to forgive somebody and then easily in an hour or two forgive their mother for whatever, for not loving them. They had to suffer. Your parents probably had to suffer through that for 40 years until they had you. And then, of course, it transferred on to you. They weren't lucky enough to stumble upon a video like this. They weren't lucky enough to come across self-help or personal development or spirituality or non-duality or awakening or any of this stuff. They didn't know. Maybe the most they did is they went to church where they got brainwashed. That was their life. That was their reality. They didn't know better. That's ignorance. So I want you to keep replaying this situation with this person in your mind while considering these principles that I gave you until you realize that anything short of total forgiveness in this situation would be beneath you. You are too good and too strong not to forgive this person. Keep doing that until you've completely forgiven this person. And then check to see if there's any judgment, resentment, hurt, or anger that remains. And if any remains, keep going through this process like a cycle. Keep trying to draw a deep commonality between you and the actions of this person until you realize that their actions are your actions. And that to forgive them is to forgive yourself, and vice versa.